Hi, welcome to this video on Visual Studio Code 1.105, which was released in October 2025. I will explain you about the new features and how they can be used. Enjoy! When you have two branches and you change a file in one branch and at the same time in the other branch and you want to merge them or merge both to your main branch, merge conflicts can occur. And sometimes if it's just one file, it's of course easy to solve mostly, but there can be situations where these merge conflicts are a real pain to solve. And what Copilot can now do is it can help you with these merge conflicts. So I do have a merge conflict here. I want to merge feature 2 to feature 1 branch. In both branches, I made a change to the lightning strike method. And as you can see, we have a conflict here. Apart from the Resolve in Merge Editor button, we also have a Copilot Sparkle button here. And if I click that, Copilot will start helping me fix this issue. And as you can see in the chat window, we can see that Copilot is referencing certain versions of files, a certain hash, so that originates from a branch, from a commit, and it's now taking a look at what it needs to do to merge these. And it's going to be pretty difficult because I made some really conflicting changes. It looks like it made the change here. All merge conflicts in flight controller have been resolved. The file is now clean and ready for further development. And what I can tell you is what it did is it took the changes, in this case of one of my branches, and used those, and by doing this it overrode the changes of the other branch. So of course you still need to be very careful when solving merge conflicts, but Copilot can help you at least in a certain way solve these conflicts. In agent mode, tools help GitHub Copilot to do certain actions that are useful. Tools we can configure here by clicking the Configure Tools button. And what you can see is we have some built-in tools, but apart from the built-in tools that give access to, for example, editing of files or creation of new files or searching, there are two other types of tools available. One comes from installing extensions, and the other one comes from installing MCP servers. So, and there is a certain naming convention in the tools that you have here. So for example, if I open the Python extension, you can see there is a tool called Configure Python Environment, which would configure a virtual environment for Python. These tools, of course, you can select them to use in agent mode, but what you can also do is you can create chat modes. And in a chat mode, you define how GitHub Copilot acts. So I've created a Python Guru chat mode, and I can now select that here from the modes. Apart from Ask Edit Agent, I now also have Python Guru that will work in a way that I defined it here in this markdown file. And in the markdown file there's a section of tools, and the tools can be defined by giving them the right name, but these names changed. So what they did is they made them fully qualified now. So as you can see here in the pop-up, it says it has been renamed, use mspython.python, and then the name of the tool. And the same happened with MCP servers, and it makes them way more recognizable. So what you can do, you can either click the Configure Tools button here, and then select the right tools and click OK, and that would fix it. So that's what happened now. So, but I'm gonna press Ctrl Z to get back. What we can also do is there is a quick fix here available. So I click the light bulb icon, and then I can click update, and it will update this as well. So that's another way of fixing this this issue. When working with GitHub Copilot, sometimes you want to focus on something else, and you want to be notified, right, when Copilot comes back with an answer or an implementation. And this has already been implemented in 1.103. So When Copilot would need confirmation from you, it would prompt you. But what it can now do is it can also notify you when it came back with a chat response, any chat response. So to configure this, we have a setting available. So we move to settings, and then we filter for chat.notify on response received. I already switched this on, but this is a setting that you will need to make. And now what we will do is we will ask Copilot a question. In this case, what is this code base about? And then when I enter, I will switch to a different window. And then Copilot should notify me when it came back with a response. So I'll enter, and then I'll tap to another application, in this case my browser with the update release notes. And then when Copilot has finished, you will see a toast message in the right bottom of my screen. There we are, with a preview of the answer. Using codebase, search for files matching readme.md, no matches, etc. And I can click it to make Visual Studio Code active again and see what it came back with. So, but you will need to enable the setting that I showed at the beginning for this to be active. In chain of thought prompting, you ask the model to execute things step by step. And by having the model do step-by-step thinking, it helps also you offload some of the cognitive load because you can do things step by step. But in order to do so, we need to see how the model, or it helps at least, to see what the model is thinking. With the new GPT-5 Codex model, this is possible. So there is a setting available in Visual Studio Code called the thinking style, and you can configure it to show the thoughts in a collapsed way. So you see just one sentence summarizing what it's thinking, and then you can expand it to see the details. There are some more options. For example, you can also choose for the expanded view, then it will also always show these thinking boxes. So, but keep in mind it is currently only available for this specific model, so you need to have that available. I have configured it to collapsed, and let's ask again a very simple question: what is this code base about? And what I see currently is that really already pretty simple commands trigger the model to start thinking, and sometimes with more complex tasks it doesn't do thinking. So that's why I chose this prompt. It can take a little while. It will first read files, directories, etc., and then come up with an answer. So let's see what it does. Okay, there we go. We have an answer. And what you can see here is composing supportive summary message. That is one of the chain of thought items that we can expand. So when I click it, you can see that it did several steps. And currently, well, it didn't do a lot of thought. So evaluating file path usage, considering tool invocation, well, some more. What I can do is I can go back to my previous prompt where it did do some thinking. So again, here it's summarizing project structure and components. And if I expand that one, it was actually the same question. You can see that it says, hey, I'll prepare a concise supportive summary of the ASP.NET Core Web API project mentioning key files like, etc. So it helps you understand how Copilot thinks. And in the near future, more models will support this, but at the moment, again, only this model supports this thinking style. Yeah, it requires a little bit of experimentation to actually get some results from this. When starting a new chat session, it's really empty. And if you want to fill your window a little bit with suggestions on how to get started, there's different ways. And there is currently a new way. and that is a setting in Visual Studio Code called the history enabled. And if I check this box, you will see that at the right hand side it will display the last few chats that I have from the chat history. So the chat history is normally available through an icon here at the top that is currently not available. And if I click this switches box off, you will see that it becomes available, and you can click it and you see the history. If you enable it, you do get the link to the chat history right here. So if I click here, I get to the same box where I can, or pull down menu where I can select from my history. When using Copilot agent mode, sometimes implementations can take a little while because they are big or they are complex. And while Copilot is running, what you can now do is you can keep or undo individual changes. You can imagine that keeping changes is relatively safe, but undoing changes can be risky. I mean, it could render the result in an unsupported state. So to be able to demo this, what I will do is I will run a prompt that will add the engine sound property. It will involve changing 2 different files, and when it's finished with the first file, which is the model, I will click the keep button and it will keep that change and then continue with the next one. So let me run this and see what happens. So it's reading plane model and the planes controller. You'd find those. Let's see, and at some point it's going to make a change, I hope. Of course, it's non-deterministic, so every time you run something, the results are different. But yeah, we'll just need to wait a little bit. It's created 5 to-dos. Okay, so it made the change. I click keep now. So as you can see, the plane, the change to the plane model is kept. And now it starts making changes to the planes controller. So now the keep button appears again. I would be able to click it again or click undo. But you can imagine that what I just did to the model, you can do that also to other files. So I hope that that helps. Of course, there is a keep and undo button for all files, but you can also click the keep and undo button for individual files or changes. When you have quite some history in your GitHub Copilot chat conversation, things can get quite lengthy, requiring you to scroll if you want to look back to one of the earlier messages. So there are now some nice keyboard shortcuts to do so. When you do Ctrl-Alt-Up, you go to the previous, of course, your chat needs to be in focus. Ctrl-Alt-Up, you go to your previous chat message. So this, in this case, I have 3, so this is completely at the top, and then Ctrl-Alt arrow down, I go to the next one, and again, arrow down, I go to the last one. So this enables you to quickly navigate the different prompts that you gave to GitHub Copilot if you want to know the information that was in one of the previous answers. You can now have OS-specific terminal settings. So that means that it will look into these settings when starting up a terminal to execute interactive commands. So there is one for Windows, there is one for OS X, and there is one for Linux. So let me show you what the one for Windows looks, because I'm running here on Windows. So the setting that you need to look for is terminal profile and then your OS name. And you will need to edit in the settings.json, so there is no UI available. And if I click that, you can see the settings that I already made. So I added an environment variable with the name pilot name, and the value is my first name. And you always need to add the path, which is in this case PowerShell. It's PowerShell core. If you're on Linux or on macOS, you might choose Bash or Z Shell, whatever you prefer. And now, when I let Copilot run any script in the terminal, it will have that environment variable available. And there's more. You can also add args to it. So yeah, check for yourself in the documentation what is available. It's pretty interesting. But let's open up this script. I wrote a PowerShell script that writes that environment variable to the output. So I will ask Copilot to to run the script. So let's do that. Just run this file. It asks me for consent, of course. I click allow, and then you will see that it wrote my name correctly. So that environment variable is available by defining it in that setting. When using agent mode, sometimes it executes commands in the terminal that require input. And sometimes the input is a little bit, well, it's more free form, and sometimes it's limited to several options. For example, when removing a file, it will ask you to remove it, and you can answer with a Y to indicate that you want to remove it. And now there is a setting that can automatically insert a Y to approve the removal of the file. So to mimic that, well, first, of course, we need to make a setting, which is auto reply to prompts. I already enabled it here. By default, it's disabled, so you will need to switch it on. And then to be able to demo this, I have a prompt that will remove a file from my repository, and I'm explicitly asking Copilot to ask for approval. So then it should execute the command with the -confirm, asking PowerShell to ask for confirmation. Then I allow it. It will start up the terminal and execute the command. And then, as you can see, default is Y, and Copilot automatically injects this Y into the terminal, approving it. So that's how this feature works. And if it's switched off, it will just wait for your confirmation. Let's see if we switch the setting off, so you can see what happens if it's not enabled. So I'm switching it off, closing my settings, closing this terminal, and then opening a new chat, asking the same question again. And then you will see it will also remove the file, although it's not there anymore. Let's see what happens. But it cannot find. Let me quickly restore it to its original place, restore file, start a new chat and try it again. There we go. So it's asking me again for confirmation. That's okay. And now it will just wait until we put in the Y. And as you can see, what it will do is it will ask me for confirmation. So if I would do allow here, it would insert a Y into the terminal. But yeah, it takes more time and more interaction, as you can see. So that's how this new setting works. The discoverability of MCP servers has been a little bit of a problem in VS Code. So what they did now is when you go to the extensions, what you can do is, of course, and that was there before, is search for MCP at MCP, and it would then display this. The only thing is there is a new button here. Let me make it a little bit wider so you can see it. Enable MCP Servers Marketplace. So if I click this on the background, it will make a change to the settings. It will change this setting from false to true. And then when I filter in the extensions marketplace for @MCP, it will show all of the MCP servers that are available in the gallery. It's a curated gallery that is made available by GitHub. And you can directly install MCP servers by just clicking them and clicking the install button. So it's as easy as that. GitHub Copilot now has not has access directly to your commit graph, but you can give it access to certain commits. So if I open up my graph here, I have several commits, and in one commit, I created an agents.md. I can right click it and I can add it to the chat, and as you can see, it appears with the file name and the first part of the hash. And then there is an update agents.md, and if I right click that and add to the chat, now I have two versions. And what I can now even do is ask GitHub Copilot, what is the difference between these two files, and it will take a look at the contents of these files and report on the difference. So that's pretty cool. It gives you access to a whole new array of possibilities, getting back into your history, not only the changes you currently made as opposed to the changes, the last committed changes, but now you can go back in your commit history and easily add those files to compare them to anything you have. Running unit tests as part of your project was previously done by GitHub Copilot by starting up a terminal and running them from the terminal. What is now available is a tool called Run Tests, and for it to work, it needs an extension. So I'm here using C#. So you would need to go into extensions and search for add category, and then a category, and then testing. So it will search for extensions that support testing, and that's something you will need to figure out first. In my case, because I'm using C#, this is the dev kit to go to. It will enable to run tests, and they are available from a separate testing tab. There we go, where you can actually see which tests are available and you can run them from here. So the run tests tool has access actually to the data that you see here on the left hand side. So let's show you how this works. So what I can do now is run the tests in my project and determine the code coverage. So this is another point. It can determine code coverage. I mean, the run test tool exposes this, but it looks like that the C# dev kit doesn't work yet on code coverage, but it does work on the test run. So it first allows me or asks me to allow to use the run tests tool, and then as you can see, it still uses the terminal on the background because it needs to do a build, etc. Yeah, there is no question anymore for it to run a certain terminal command. And as you can see, all tests passed. Code coverage has been determined successfully. So, and that's the point. I don't see anything about code coverage here in the message, but if you open up this test coverage tab, you can still see what the coverage is on a per file basis. The first time I ran this, it automatically opened up that tab on the left hand side. So I guess that this feature will evolve and make it much more usable. So I know that there's testing extensions also available, at least for Java and Python and JavaScript. So please take a look at the documentation, because there's way more going on that might be important for you to know before you start working with this. Then there are some other features that were hard to demo this time. So what I will do is I will explain them, and I hope that people for whom these features are important will be able to find it out themselves. The first one is Visual Studio Code now supports Apple ID login. So apart from Google login, the Microsoft login, and just the GitHub login, it will also support Apple ID login for Copilot. Then there's two more models that became available. One was available in my demos, which is GPT-5 Codex, and the other one is the much awaited Claude Sonnet 4.5. It became GA actually yesterday, the day before I recorded this video. So that's pretty cool. Take a look what they can do for you. Claude Sonnet 4 is a thinking model, so it might be a little bit slower, but it will provide higher quality outcomes. So, and the GPT-5 Codex model is really an interesting one. It's also a thinking model, and as I showed you during the demos, you can actually reveal part of the thinking it does. Then, for people on an individual license, so a free license or a pro license, what they can do is set up a bring your own key. So actually bring your own model. That means that you can either host your model locally using something like Olama, or you can use a model that is hosted on Azure, for example, or any other cloud provider, as long as you have a key to access the model and an endpoint. And there are some improvements on that side as well. You can also use this feature when you have a GitHub Enterprise license. So generally all of the companies issue GitHub Copilot business licenses, so most people won't have this. But the Enterprise license also gives this opportunity. It works with an opt-in model, meaning that you would need to opt into this feature, and then you would be able to set up this bring your own key. And keep in mind that things like blocking open source code because of licensing is not available when you use this feature. Then, for people who have not seen this, we have recorded this before. So there is an option to hand over a discussion that you have with the coding agent, with GitHub Copilot in agent mode to the coding agent. So the coding agent works on github.com, and it enables you to have it do work asynchronously on the github.com platform while you continue to work locally. That button, the dispatch button to send work to the coding agent, is now enabled by default. So in the chat window, you will see the arrow that will send your chat message, and next to that arrow, there's a button to dispatch to the coding agent. The last one is there is a new feature where you could nest agents.md files. So these are files that are picked up both by the coding agent as well as your local GitHub Copilot agent. I think in the future it will replace copilot-instructions.md. And you can nest them, meaning you can have a file in the root of your workspace and then have a file in a certain directory with different instructions. I couldn't make this work. Take a look for yourself. Maybe you can get it to work. So I hope that this feature helps you. All right, that was it. It wraps up this session. Thanks for watching and hope to see you next time.